Usher was just aggressively different and sexy.
We all were like, who is this kid?
To get a record deal like that, that's crazy.
The fight for fame.
He was going through puberty.
Usher was singing 12 hours a day, trying to get 2 or 3 right notes.
I'm sure he sees some things that he probably didn't want to see, but I'm sure he sees some things that he did want to see.
The moment that changed everything.
We went out there and we worked our butts off.
It was that Atlanta anthem.
It's one of those records that every artist wants.
The brand just became solid, massive hit.
That was a tidal wave.
And he didn't stop.
That's when they popped.
What does it mean to pop?
And it's just that perfect song at that perfect moment.
That one record.
The stars aligning.
And all of a sudden, you pop.
And you become a superstar.
Usher Terry Raymond IV was born October 14th, 1978 in Dallas, Texas, but spent his early years in Chattanooga, Tennessee, being raised by his mother, Janetta Patton.
The first time that I heard Usher sing was at church. You know, he would sit on the front row with his grandfather, and he would sing, and he was incredible. So I knew that he had a voice. I became the director in the youth choir, and Usher was 9 years old, and he was one of my lead singers.
I really feel that the best singers come from the church.
If you've never been in a black church, you have to see it in that setting. These are singers, or as we would say, singers. These are singers with a name. In order to shine in that environment, Usher had to be great.
God gave Usher a gift to sing and took it to the next level. But there's not too much opportunity in Chattanooga. You know, it's a little place, it's in the South. But Chattanooga is a hop, skip, and a jump from Atlanta.
When we decided to move and I was really thinking about the music industry, I was thinking about L.A. Reid and Babyface and LaFace Records.
During the early to mid-90s, they had all the hot acts there. TLC, Tony Braxton. It was just a hotbed of great talent.
So for her to go to Atlanta was a great move.
When Usher arrived in Atlanta, he wasted no time and started performing in local talent shows.
I found Usher at a talent show. He was 12, 13 years old.
That night, LaFace Records was in the audience.
I saw this little kid perform that just blew me away. He was singing End of the Road. What stood out was his stage presence, his tonality, his voice, the control, and he had it all.
Jumped off the stage and jumped into the laps of a bunch of girls and sang to him. We all were there looking like, who is this kid?
Usher was just aggressively different and sexy, and girls, women, everybody loved it.
It was just one of those things that you knew there was something special about it.
After the performance, I asked to meet him, and I told him he was a cross between a Michael Jackson and a Bobby Brown, and that I'd like to set up a meeting for him to come to LaFace Records.
I knew what Usher was the day I walked him into LaFace Records.
He got a record deal on the spot, and then we started the recording process.
L.A. Reid was the man at the time. So to get a record deal like that and to get those guys working with you, that's crazy.
Usher was feeling great because he was having fun.
What you looking at?
But one day, Usher was in the studio recording, and his voice went out. He lost his voice.
You had a headache?
Yeah. I got a headache, you know, from doing all them high notes.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
He was going through puberty.
Man, the voice change, it can be the death of a lot of really great singers.
Usher was singing 12 hours a day, just trying to get 2 or 3 right notes. He was really kind of at the mercy of his age and his stage.
It happens really to all singers, and some of them handle it okay, and then some of them's voice, it just doesn't sound good.
The record company didn't know how to deal with a young kid going through the voice change.
I was really concerned. The label higher-ups were thinking, what do we do now?
You know, he was really down, he was really low, very depressed at times.
It seemed like it was about over.
He almost lost his record deal. That really made him work hard because he had to prove himself.
He pretty much was learning how to work through the adversity of puberty.
He's motivated, and he's not gonna ever give up. I've never gotten that impression from him.
You have to get a confidence in singing in a lower register, in a more mature register, it's a tough thing to do.
That's when you start realizing the determination and what kind of character the person has. And he had a fighter character at that point.
And he fought. You know, he rehearsed, he practiced, he remained positive. The main reason why the label decided to go forward with it is because he still had that star quality, and you just don't give up on that easily.
L.A. still had the belief in Usher. He still knew that he had a lot more to offer.
With the label once again willing to back Usher, the next step was to find a producer who'd be a good match for Usher's young talents.
Initially, my goal was to bring Jermaine Dupri in, but the label wanted to go in another direction with Puffy.
Puffy, when he met Usher, he loved Usher.
Puffy was very hot. I mean, his fingers was on the pulse.
Usher went to New York to go record with Puff Daddy.
But I don't know if I necessarily agree with taking this young, almost naive child who grew up in the South and blending this whole New York mix with him.
Growing up in life as a little kid, there's things you experience, but growing up with somebody like Puff, I'm sure he's seen some things that he probably didn't want to see, but I'm sure he's seen some things that he did want to see. You know, the girls, you know, the mansions, private jets, the lifestyle. But I'm sure whatever he was exposed to, it was pretty good.
At age 15, Usher's first album was released.
One day we can be together, 'cause you know that I wanna be down, baby.
But to many, his lyrics were overly sexual for a young man barely in his teens.
The song Can You Get With It just might have been a little bit more mature than what the label was trying to go for at that time.
Only a sexual thing.
For people to believe in you as a superstar and an artist, they have to believe that the art comes from you. And there was kind of no way that people were giving Usher credit for Can You Get With It.
Let me take off all your clothes. Let me make love to you real slow.
The record wasn't huge, but it was nothing that said, oh, Usher can't handle this. It was more like, it didn't work.
The album didn't have the success they were hoping for, selling only 500,000 copies.
Usher did have concerns about the album not being well received by the masses.
It was Usher saying, I was up there with Puff, I was with Biggie, I had all these stars around me. I just assumed that that was going to be the thing that made me a star. People would just kind of give it to me by association.
He was very, very upset about it because he really put a lot of energy with the first record. I think Usher doubted himself.
Disappointing debut LP release, Usher and his mom found themselves struggling to prove his worth to his record label.
After the failure of the Usher record, I had to really do something to prove to him, we're gonna win this fight.
I think you have to let artists get out of their comfort zone, out of their environment, and see how it works.
We went out there and we worked our butts off.
The fans and the label had cooled on Usher, but instead of retreating, Usher and his mom took his career into their own hands. They took the bold step of booking performances themselves, often with their own money.
They were performing everywhere. Anywhere and everywhere, they would perform.
When Usher's mom took him out on the road and they did the grassroots thing, I think that that was a genius move.
It's about the connection with your audience because you're connected so much with what you do and what you sing about and what you feel.
And y'all keep breathing, it's like that. It's only a sexual thing.
We went out, we performed, we would make money, and the record company, you know, they just sat on the sideline, you know, they didn't really believe.
We're not sure whether this is working. You know, the last record didn't quite work and all of that. But if you can go out and perform it, that's a huge leg up.
We convinced everyone that he was a star.
The label probably saw that and was like, whoa, we got something here. We need to hurry up. We need to move on this kid because he's moving without us.
The label breathed new life into Usher and paired him with an Atlanta producer with a proven track record.
The lack of success with Puffy, it was then our goal to get him with Jermaine Dupri.
Jermaine Dupri was the perfect pairing for Usher because he tailor-makes a song specifically for you.
Usher felt like, here's a guy I can relate to who's young, hip-hop based, but Atlanta based.
Jermaine's studio at the time, it was in his house.
He's got like pool tables, pinball machines, and it's just a cool atmosphere, and it's always just fun.
Except for when Usher would get bored and feel like we weren't working. Because his idea was, man, this might be my last shot. We need to be in the studio. But the brilliant thing about Jermaine is he understood what was more productive was having fun and kicking it and talking, because that spurred or sparked that song.
It was just magic.
3 years after Usher's debut album landed with little excitement, My Way hit the streets with the buzz.
With the My Way record, Usher and Jermaine came up with You Make Me Wanna.
You make me wanna leave the one I'm with.
Oh, baby, say what you do.
Oh man, that was a stone winner.
It was upbeat, it was R&B, the lyrical content was amazing, and those vocals were like some of the best vocals I had ever heard Usher sing.
I loved it, and I didn't think anybody else was going to get it. The melody was all over the place. You made me want to be in a moment and a new relationship with you. I'm like going, people aren't going to remember all that. Boy, was I happy to be wrong.
My Way did marginally well. I think it was a great stepping stone to answer that last album.
I think the difference in Usher's first record and his second record is that he kind of went home. I think he really honed into him.
My Way redeemed Usher, sold well, and showed the world Usher could one day pop.
Everyone is so excited to go on to the next project. There's a lot of excitement, you know, for Usher.
Usher had planned to release All About You as his follow-up to My Way, but a turn of events would sabotage that.
We thought we were done, because that record took a long time. People got hyped about it.
All About You was an album where a few of the songs leaked out.
The song that got leaked was Pop Your Collar, and it wasn't a record that me and Jermaine wanted to go with.
He was very upset that music was leaking.
It's a bad thing then when they would leak songs, because it would just create chaos with the label.
When they leak, I think it's just a test for the public. Let's leave it to the fans.
Whatever you give the radio stations and the fans, for the first 2 days, they're gonna go nuts. As the radio stations start playing it, but the feedback came back horrible.
You get negative feedback, you go back to the drawing board.
He was very, very upset about it because the time that's spent and money that's spent was not recoupable. We weren't happy at all.
Coming up, Usher struggles to salvage his music.
We had to scrap that project and start all over again.
Me and Usher were in the club, and this song comes on, and we thought the record leaked.
And later, Usher's pop song that shook up the industry.
That was an instant classic.
That was a tidal wave.
It just made you feel like you wanted to get up and dance.
Usher popped because he kept going.
It was a phenomenon.
Songs from Usher's album All About You were leaked on the radio. Worse yet, it seemed no one liked them. Usher and the album were in crisis.
He was very, very upset about it.
He went with his gut and he said, you know, we need more songs, we need better songs.
We had to scrap that project and start all over again.
That was a gutsy move to do that.
Usher was forced back in the studio to save what he could of All About You. He reworked the music and renamed the album 8701.
With the 8701 album, he came out with You Remind Me.
See the thing about you
Remind Me was dope. I thought it was hip-hop. The beat was like...
is the same thing that makes me change my mind.
I remember Usher, like, freaked it.
You remind me of a girl that I once knew.
You remind me of a girl that I once knew. And then Usher has, like, these really cool riffs that he puts between the choruses. He said, whenever I look,
I look at you.
just, oh man, magic.
That's one of those songs you could hear it way in the background and you knew what it was.
In the video, he does this handstand. Oh my God, incredible. That was an instant classic.
I thought the You Remind Me track was absolutely brilliant.
This is why I just can't get with you.
8701 performed better than My Way worldwide, but it wasn't the breakout Usher had hoped for, so he headed back in the studio to begin work on his next album, Confessions.
Going into Confessions is a big deal. You know, we don't want the music to leak.
While pushing the fears of his music leaking to the back of his mind, Usher tapped an unlikely producer to take a chance on a new sound.
At the time, Atlanta had a movement going on with crunk music that Lil Jon started. Lil Jon had given him this track, and Usher asked me to come out to his house. I drove out. He's like, man, I need you to listen to this song they sent me. Everybody in the house was just laughing at this song like, man, you crazy. That's not hot. That's not hot.
I just was kind of like, yeah, that's okay.
I didn't really like the song.
When I heard it, I just thought, yeah, this feels great. And he was like, for real? I'm like, yeah, I think so. He knew it was something to it, but he didn't love it. No one else did as well.
Despite lingering doubts about the track, Usher decided to move forward with the song.
Usher was very excited to put the record out.
I remember one night, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. Me and Usher were in a club in Atlanta. And I remember this song comes on, and we thought like, oh, the record leaked. That's not Yeah, what is that?
Yeah didn't actually leak. Lil Jon gave the beat to another artist.
And I went to the DJ, and he was like, yeah, this the new P.D. Pablo.
Let's take some calls from the request line.
And he's another Southern rapper because he's the one that said, do you want it on the floor? Do you want it on the chair? Do you want it over here? Do you want it over there?
Do you want it on the chair? Do you want it over here? Do you want it over there? Do you want it in your...
Usher was furious when he heard the P.D. Pablo record. Usher just looked at me like, see, this is crazy. Called Lil Jon. Jon was like, what? He was like, don't worry about it. I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna redo the beat. I'll do a new beat for it.
Wanting to do right by Usher, Lil Jon reworked the track and created the song's signature sound.
Well, what came back after Lil Jon retooled the record?
Taking the same beat, but putting the synth line over the top of it. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
That was not there.
The label did not respond to the song, so Lil Jon took matters into his own hands.
Lil Jon's a DJ, so he probably just wanted to get it out. He had a hot record that he wanted people to hear.
And Lil Jon was like, man, listen, I got a song with Usher right now. I'm finna get this thing out some kind of way.
So Lil Jon leaked the song.
The best move he could have made.
The first time I heard Yeah was in a club, and it was amazing.
In the club with my homies, trying to get a little VI, we're down on the low key.
The first time I heard Yeah, the finished version was actually, we were in a club. And it wasn't until I heard the yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, I heard this before. I just don't remember liking it as much as I like it now.
Usher's vocals were insane.
Where's it gonna lead?
Usher bringing that, his appeal to it, marriage with the Lil Jon, the crunkness, the booty popping, the yeah. Oh, man. It was excellent.
That combination and just how Usher sounded, how Lil Jon, you could just hear his energy and his excitement in the track. Luda just jumped on and killed it.
Want a lady in the street, but a freak in the bed that say.
Absolutely murdered the record, and yeah, it was just right.
It was that Atlanta anthem, if you will, of all that musically was there and all that culturally was there.
It just made you feel like you wanted to get up and dance and move.
That whole moment where Lil Jon gets on the mic and starts talking about do the A-Town stomp, do the muscle, do the rockaway, thunderclap.
That's just a mad ploy to get people on the dance floor to do these dances, and then everyone does it.
So give me the rhythm and it'll be off with their clothes, then bend over to the front and touch your toes.
Everyone was losing their mind. Everyone loved the song.
Massive hit.
That was his first official club banger. Banger.
That was a tidal wave. When that song hit the radio, it was unstoppable.
And so radio began to call the label asking for this song. And I remember one label executive said, call Lil Jon.
Yeah reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 12 consecutive weeks. It was the most played song of 2004. Confessions would go on to sell 1.1 million copies in its first week and over 10 million copies in the U.S. alone. Usher would go on to win 3 Grammys with the album.
He can actually say he sold over 10 million records on the project when people, you know what I'm saying, could barely go.
And that's what it's about. When you have an act and you find the right songs and you put them together, that's when the magic happens. And that's when they pop.
Usher